Hello, I am back. It is me, Jamil Raymond, the Binge Thinker. I don't know if this will still be called the Binge Thinker. I think it will be for now, just because I've invested so much into it. But I am back from break. I am back from taking some time off to get back into my own skin and into my own bicep. It's been a few months now since the last pod, and I'm deliberately keeping it minimal. You would have noticed there was no intro music. Um, I don't know what I'm going to do with all that shit. I have been doing a fair bit of reflecting on my time off, and we'll get to what I've been up to in a second. But I guess I wanted to preface the next season of the Binge Thinker, and it's decidedly minimal. And the reason is, in between season one and season two, I've had a bit of a shift in the identity that I want to invest in. Less about comedy. I don't really care about being a comedian anymore. I am very much focused on a solo entrepreneur journey into business, into where I can deliver the most value to people and pursue a life of freedom. That's what this podcast has been about. That's the ongoing narrative of my life right now, is the pursuit of freedom and liberty and justice for me. Maybe other people too, giving them some liberation mentally by sharing my story. But that is really it for now. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I considered not doing the podcast after last year, just because it was a lot of fucking work. And it was a lot of work for all the things that I was doing at once. But another thing that I'm working on is to be decidedly minimal and cut a lot of unnecessary shit out of my life. I've gotten rid of the queer gig. That my final show is on the 23rd, where I run that. Just smaller activities and initiatives, and I'm saying no to a lot more of things because if you remember last year, I was putting out a lot of different things, doing a lot of things at once, and not really getting anywhere fruitful. My energies were spread too far thin across too many things. And a lot of those things did not serve me, and I continue to whittle down things in my life that do not serve me. And, the things that the constant narratives that I have in my life that keep reappearing is to talk about a solo entrepreneur journey, tools and insights about how I've worked on myself, which I think are going to be immensely valuable to people that pay attention, like you, beautiful people, you early adopters of me, which I highly appreciate. And these are the things that I'm more passionate about talking about than anything else. I just want to be able to express openly, be as honest as fucking possible, and that's very hard. It's been a continual challenge. And to be, just be. There's just to be someone, not to try and be something. Because once you try, there's this facade, right? And everyone talks about being authentic. That's the new wave of being a creator and being a brand, is to just be authentic. And I completely agree with that because we are, for better or for worse, just all people. Most of us don't know what the fuck we're doing to a large degree, and we're all in the process of getting better at things. But we have put up this facade, which has been reinforced by legacy media, where our shows and our personalities were contrived and glossed over, as opposed to the real humans that they are. Like, people like in Australia, like Carl Stefanovic going on a bender, or Andrew O'Keefe, all these glossy daytime TV celebrities. Yeah, no shit. We all want to fucking party. So it's kind of cool. It makes them better when they do crazy shit. Like Daniel Ricciardo doing a shoey instead of being this glossy brand. It's fun. Well, that's who we are as people. Mostly Australians, but, being real is fun and it's useful and it's relatable. The hard part is actually being relatable and authentic to yourself, for one thing, because we aren't. We've all got layers of bullshit that we talk about and who we are, and we deceive ourselves about who we think we should be. And also just being vulnerable and being yourself on a public format, such as a podcast, such as being a content creator. So it's hard to create that groundwork because we've spent so much of our lives being inauthentic and hiding how we really think and how we really feel to our detriment. I mean, no one goes around being truly honest all the time. That's what's so funny about Curb Your Enthusiasm and Larry David and Seinfeld. It's like, no, these guys are just purely themselves at every cost to humanity and social contract, and it's fucking hilarious. And we envy people like Larry David because he's fucking funny. And he's just like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. I want to do what I want to do. And these things irritate me, and I'm going to enforce my belief and my narrative on the world, which is what many of us do not do. So this is my little way to outreach and push into that, is to go, you know what? Fuck everyone. You're going to like me, you're not. And I'm just going to be as honest as possible. And that's it. If things fuck up, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And all the details that I worked on trying to produce this better, with edits and putting a nice banner out and working on the thumbnail, yeah, I'll work on that. But it's taking away from me just being real first and foremost. And I need to practice being authentic. And that's the 80%. That's the Pareto's principle of what content should be engaging and relatable. And the other things will fall into place later on. So that's what this is. It's a practice, yet again, in being authentic and having my own space to self-express. And that's what I loved about the podcast and why I wanted to keep doing it. And there's just been amazing feedback about what I've been putting out there, despite all my own worst fears about what could be. So that's why I keep doing it, is to go, you need to get to know me, to trust me so I can build a brand. And that's what I'm doing. I'm being honest with you guys. I'm building a solo brand. I'm building something that's based on me and my capabilities and my skill sets, because quite frankly, I back myself in more than anything else in this fucking world, because I have put plenty of runs on the board about what I'm capable of, the life that I've transformed for myself, and the initiatives from last year, like the Comedy Network, relied on other people that don't understand the vision or the outcomes and don't really get how to manage their own fucking lives, because they're comedians and they're beautifully damaged people that express themselves through this damage in a means that everyone relates to, hopefully, and that's fantastic, right? But I cannot get over the fact that I am a serial overachiever. And I'll talk about this more in later eps, just the narratives in my life that I've had to reflect upon that have provided me the most growth and most capability. And that is really just doing it on my own, going on my own. So maybe the other part of this podcast and what it's meant to be is, what am I doing next? So what I'm doing next is a solo entrepreneur journey. Instead of trying to create a company and a business for the benefit of other people, I'm leveraging my own skill sets and capabilities to deliver value on a smaller scale. It's essentially a practice of me. And why I'm doing this is because, quite simply, like I said before, I can back myself to do the work, to realize my own vision, and it's the most efficient way for me to deliver value to the market, because I'm really just sharing things and sharing my outputs that I put the hours in to get better at. I've got my 10,000 hours in certain things, one of them being sales, and that's part of the journey. We'll keep talking about that. And I want to break free. I'm trying to become an entrepreneur or a solo entrepreneur for freedom. It's as simple as that. I don't want to be an employee for anyone else for the rest of my life. I want my financial freedom. I'm very capable of creating value. I've sold over $25 million worth of technology in the last 5 years alone. So if I know that I'm capable of delivering that much value to an organization, imagine how much value I could deliver to myself if I put that amount of effort in and had a product that I believed in, just like I do in the products that I sell for a corporation. That's what makes me good at sales, is that I believe in the products that I sell, and my conviction does a lot of the work, And I'm very good at putting 3 steps ahead in front of a customer to think about their best solutions and marrying them up to that. That's it. You're going to hear me talk about sales a lot, sales psychology, human psychology, for the next time ongoing, because that's what I'm building. My next step is to build a sales course for juniors and people new to the tech industry. And I want to get people into tech sales, just like I did. Because tech sales is a great career. It develops you a lot of money from the base. You do not need to be technical. And it's my 10,000 hours as well. So I'm packaging that up. I'm packaging up my 10,000 hours of high-performing sales experience into a course, into a career map for people that are who want to get into tech. So either you're early in career in your tech sales industry, tech sales career, you are a uni grad looking to get experience or find a way into the tech industry, or you're an engineer that works in a technology company that wants to develop more skills going to last in the future, which is sales, account management, people skills. So that's what I'm doing now, is I'm working on a solopreneur journey. I'm building a digital product, and I have to productize myself. Just like Naval was talking about in the last season of the pod I did last year, you need to productize yourself to become a creator, to create your own individual wealth at scale efficiently by leveraging your intellect, your capabilities, your skill set, distilling it into a process or a system, putting it into a easily digitally scalable solution, such as media or a course, which is media because it's video, and then selling the fuck out of it through your own personal brand, through your lived experiences, sharing that on the internet. People get attracted to that. Your vibe is your tribe. And that's how you build your pipeline and the pathway to your own financial freedom, because a lot of these things that you're going to create on the internet are very highly profitable. That's the benefit of the solo entrepreneur journey and the new value creator economy that I've been banging on about, is that with the necessary skill sets and tools to manage a business of one, to create a niche of you, if you've got the fucking attitude and the balls and the nous to back in what your experience can do for others, you've got to build. So that's what I'm doing. I'm building something new. I'm building something different. I've taken some time to sit back and reflect on what has worked and what hasn't worked to date in my entrepreneurial journey. One thing is actually accepting the fact and the identity of being an entrepreneur. I don't really like the name. I'm not a fan of that label. I think it's just because all the douchey connotations to it, but it is what it is, right? I'm a salesperson. I don't like being called a salesperson. Am I in sales? Yeah. But I don't like being called a salesperson because of those connotations that are associated with it. But it never really bothered me because I knew what I was doing. I was solving problems. That's what I'm good at. Solving problems. Not being the fucking slick, salesy, douchebag, used car salesman motherfucker that, with the slick back hair and just that sense of, I'm trying to get something over you. So that's where the identity's going now, is to become a solo entrepreneur, share the journey with you good people for better or for worse, and also just keep sharing insights and tools about my life that I think are valuable. You got to own your story. That's one of the big reflections and one of the big narratives in my life right now, is owning your story. Who you are, what you've done, talking about it, and just embracing it. So much of us in our lives is in denial of who we are, in the shame of what we think we should be or what we think others are judging upon us in life. And it restricts us in so many ways. Self-expression is usually just mired in shame. That's what holds it down. That's what holds your authentic self down. And I've had many layers of shame peel off me in this time off between pods, which has been great because you need it. It's liberating. It's really liberating to peel off some shame and some bullshit, some weight, some energy in your being that does not serve you anymore. And that's what I needed to do, is just prune a bunch of shit that wasn't working. Less quantity, more quality in life. I needed to realign yet again and peel off the layers of identity and bullshit that don't serve me anymore. And hopefully in that process of doing so and talking about it with you good people, it'll encourage you to do it yourself, to think about where you could be more authentic in your life. Think about what bullshit you're holding on to that doesn't serve you. Is it people? Is it thoughts? Is it belief systems? I'm going to be going through all of that, speaking from my truth, for better or for worse, because I have to own it. Because if you don't own it and you don't own who you are, you're going to spend a lot of yourself hiding. I'm going to bring it up again. Identity is the highest form of commitment. Right? Love that hierarchy of commitment. It's back in season 2. It's never going anywhere. Money, time, energy, identity. Identity is the highest form of commitment. And just because we identify with certain narratives and certain bullshit in our lives, it doesn't mean it serves us, but we still identify with it. We identify as the hurt children in our lives, in many aspects of ourselves, where we didn't get the love and support that we needed in times of pressure or crises, and we keep this energetic identity alignment, is the best way to put it, is that we stay in the frame of that hurt child for so long, our entire lives. You can see it in people. You probably see it in your parents sometimes. I'm in this stage now where I'm transitioning into the head of the family, into the real adult in my family unit, and I see the hurt child, and I see the gaps in my own family's thinking capability, because they're caught in the same narratives, the same stories they tell themselves that have been looping in their brains their entire lives. And we've all got them, and I still have them, but I've spent a lot of time cutting through that shit and trying to transmute and repurpose and transform those negative beliefs, these false narratives that keep us down from doing everything that we can in life. So, where have I been? Where have I been for the last 4 months? 4 months? Let's call it. Doesn't really matter. Taking a creative break, focusing on the bicep. So the bicep is now back to normal. I got clearance just over a week ago from the surgeon, 12 weeks post-surgery. I'm good to go. I'm putting some reps in. I started weight training my upper body for the first time in a few months, right around Christmas, the week before New Year's, which has been great. It's been good to get a pump on, put some muscle on again. Your boy's getting thick. I've been having a few calories, getting them gain trains on. Size-wise, I'm getting back to where I was pre-injury, which is fantastic. The goal now as a fitness dude, or in my physical life, maintaining my physical health, is sexy longevity. Simple as that. I want to look good, and I want to look good for a long time. I've stopped caring about how much weight I can lift. I really just care about looking good. Simple as that, for a variety of reasons. I used to be a fatty. I used to have a lot of shame about my body because I was overweight and I was afraid of it being seen, and I didn't like being judged for it. You know, most of my adult life, I didn't like being in photos, and I still kind of don't to a degree, but I've gotten a lot better at it. So it's just going, yeah, fuck this. For all that time that I was this fat kid inside, watching other people get girls or get attention. I was the outsider because I wasn't looked upon as a sexual being for the majority of my adult life. Actually, that's not true. Not the adult life, but definitely my developmental years. When we talk about the hurt children, there's been this urge to go, yeah, I just want to look fucking good. And I don't want to put my self-worth to be based on a bunch of numbers for ego lifting that no one gives a fuck about except for me. No one gives a fuck that I can deadlift over 180 kilos, or I have. No one gives a fuck. I'm not competing. But I used to put a lot of my self-worth physically in what I could lift about being strong. And I think there was this determination to be physically strong because mentally I did not feel strong. There is behind the muscle was a fragile ego that has, again, had ongoing narratives of not being strong enough, not being good enough, not being masculine enough. But again, that's just a mental thing. For my weight class, I could lift way more than the average man could. But again, it was never enough. And that's what I have to deal with. The concept of enough in my own head. Not about how much it can lift. It's more about what is going to make me happy to feel most aligned to myself. And to be perfectly honest, it's just to look good. It's just to look good after a lifetime of not feeling and looking good and not enjoying my body. And hey, I've got a fucking personal brand to develop right here as well, which is this. I've got to look good in front of a camera or else I'm not going to put myself out there. It certainly helps. The brand. Sex sells. I've had women come up to me in this time off, sort of bit of a diversion here. For the first time, I'm getting some genuine female attention and a lot of quality female attention as well. Your boy's been fucking. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Dating for the first time. For the first time in my adult life properly. Getting female attention, enjoying it, but also realizing I have no fucking idea what I'm doing in the dating world. Because I never have had to date in my adult life to date. Because when I was in a relationship from essentially 19 to 29. Before that, I was a fat dweeb that didn't have any confidence around women. Still working on that, really. Confidence with women. And then the pandemic hit when I became freshly single. So you don't want to be that fuckwit that's trying to pull a bitch. I'm going to edit that bit out. I can't be calling women bitches on this podcast. I'm not going to edit that part in, but you get what I mean. But you don't want to be that guy. Hang on. You don't want to be that guy that's trying to pull women during a pandemic, just trying to fuck with your mask on, going, yeah, come on, babe, let's go, let's do this. No good. I was busy working on myself during that time, cocooning away. Sure, I wanted to connect with women, realize how terrible I am at dating, or just how incongruent I am with the experience compared to others. Because, yeah, that's what your 20s are supposed to be about, dating and experimenting and figuring yourself out. I had to condense all that figuring myself out into a very shorter period of the last 3 years. But that doesn't mean you need to still have reps on the board with actual other people to understand how you date, what you want in someone, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'll be getting out, enjoying myself, but realizing that I have a bit of a gap when it comes to the social etiquette of dating, reading people, understanding them. But you got to just get the reps in, right? I'm a late bloomer, have been in many ways in some places. Usually I'm late to a lot of things, but everything gets done in the end. So I'll back myself to sort that little conundrum out of relationships and other. And also, I'm enjoying my own space and being me too much to give much of a fuck at this point. I've got more important things to deal with than women. And that's a very healthy way to think about it. Patrice O'Neill said, and I agree with him, women have to be the fourth most important thing in your life. It needs to be me, my career, so it needs to be my happiness, my career, my family, and then women. And then eventually, when women become family, they move up in the chain. But that's really where men need to focus on, is their own happiness, their own determination and purpose, their tribe, which is their family and the people they love, and then the women that are circulating to hopefully become part of that tribe. Because a high quality man is in high demand. Where people ask where all the good men are, there's not many of them. I've looked around. That's one of the good takeaways I've had from dating, is that compared to a lot of men, I'm doing fucking pretty well. I'm definitely a high value man because I've got my shit together mentally, physically, spiritually. Mentally, I'm still working on things, but compared to most dudes, the fact that I'm in therapy and I'm an advocate for it, the fact that I have a clean house that I live in, the fact that I've got just some basic fucking hygiene, it seems, puts me ahead of most men in the dating pool, which is a bit of a shame. Poor women. The poor women. What else has been going on? Oh, yeah. I have been enjoying getting away from how do I put this? Let me start this again. I've been getting into music again. I did talk about that last year, but in the last couple of months off that I've had, I have played bass in a band, in a gig for the first time in 10 years. That was fucking great. And I DJ'd for the first time at my cousin's house party, which was a lot of fun. Man, I miss music. It's so good to be aligned to music again as opposed to comedy. There is a beauty and an art to comedy, and there is a beauty and art to music, but music, it's different, man. It's still in my top 3 feelings. It could be number 1 still. I don't really know if killing it in comedy was as good as having a great musical gig. I really don't know. And that's probably part of the reason why it's always stuck with me and sort of itched, is because being a musician, you get to surrender a little bit more than being a comedian. You get to be part of a band. You get to you get to be part of this group, and you play your part, and you serve the performance, you serve the music, you serve the audience. And you're doing that in comedy as well, but it's much easier to do so when you have had practice away from the audience. That's one of the great things about music compared to comedy, is that I can get all my shit notes and all my rust away in private where nobody has to hear them. But in comedy, audiences have to suffer through you figuring it out, getting all the rust off, getting the kinks out. And that's why you have to gig so much, is because you only get better 5 minutes at a time when you do comedy. And that's why it's a noble fucking art, one of the hardest things you will ever do in your life. And I love comedy, and part of me is a comedian and will always be forever. But I don't need to prove to anyone that I'm funny. And particularly after the experience that I've had looking around in the comedy scene here in Australia, it's not the best use of my skills. There is a much higher ceiling of capability and value that I can bring as a solo entrepreneur than I can as a comedian or an entrepreneur in the Australian comedy industry. And so it's just one asset or one facet of my identity. So that's why I've shifted away from it, because I have nothing to prove in the comedy space, and in music, yeah, it still gets me in a certain way. And again, that will probably come in and out as I focus on the business side of things and starting to get that hustle grind set mentality again whilst I work on this sales course. But playing music, getting a fresh dose of it, remembering and re-feeling those amazing sensations of seeing people enjoy and just release themselves and are dancing and having fun. It's a great feeling, man. I always want to be on the stage as opposed to in the audience, no matter where I am. I just love being up there, making people feel good. And by narrowing down on that particular sensation, that facet of reality, that I just want to get up on stage and make people feel good and make them feel better, that's what creates the breadth of what I think I can deliver and create for people's benefit. It doesn't just have to be comedy. And I don't want to limit myself to just comedy in my creative pursuits. There's music. I do want to get into photography. I need to get better as a videographer and creating a story and narrative through the content that I create. This is more of a factual and a diary anyway, so it doesn't really matter that this needs to be aesthetically perfect. But there's just so many facets to myself that I want to explore and I want to have the freedom to. Hence why I'm becoming a solo entrepreneur, because if I can get this right, I can build the financial freedom, which is really just time freedom. That's the first degree of being a good business person and a good solo entrepreneur, is that I can get out of the 9 to 5 and in having to invest 40 hours, as they say, 40 hours a week into another business, when I can just keep working on things that I want to do for myself, that I know that I can create better value on and better return on investment on in the long term. Going back to what I was saying before, I've thought about this for years and then planted the seed of why I wanted to become a solo entrepreneur was, if I know that I can create millions of dollars of value in the market, but I just get a fraction of that as a salary and commissions, then what would happen if I put the same amount of effort and capability into an organization, i.e. myself, that did not limit the return on my outputs in my investments? It's extremely high. But why people don't do it is because they're afraid of starting at ground zero. And they don't think they've got something that's of value to the market. And they don't know how to build it. And it becomes too much and it becomes overwhelming. So they let that seethe and bubble in their guts for what could have been, and just let it sit there. But I can't do that. I cannot sit by and let things just happen to me, not for me. That's the whole point of what I'm doing here. It's freedom. It's the freedom to be me in whatever this ridiculous experience, this ridiculously beautiful experience of life is, to break out of these constraints that the systems, the legacy systems have put on us about the Australian dream, the American dream, to just get an easy job, get a job, buy a house, have kids, die, just servicing people's debts and mortgages. Fuck that. Just fuck that. We're all sick of it. That's why we have things like the Great Resignation or the Great, whatever they're called, the Great Reshuffle. We're always searching for more. We're always searching for purpose and for meaning. Why are people quitting? Because they don't think that their purpose is in a corporation, in these ridiculous processes as being a cog in the machine that someone has built to realize value for shareholders. That's what your life is if you work in the corporate world. Your resource output is for the benefit of the shareholder, a faceless entity that is just distantly leveraging your output to improve their passive income. You're spending your active time to invest in other people's passive income time, when it really should be the other way around. You should be making your money work for you. You should be making your outputs work in your favor for the most return on investment. And instead of trying to squeeze your way up for, a couple of percent pay increase while inflation eats your livable salary down another 15, 20%, you got to build something that's worth long term, that'll enable your freedom. Right now, I feel like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption. This is me slowly chipping away at that jail wall with a fucking spoon, just day by day, breaking away from the systems that imprison us, hiding that dirt in my trouser pants and putting them out in the field to a life of freedom, of choice, of self-sufficiency. And there's nothing wrong with where I'm at from a corporation perspective. I like the company that I work for now. I know I talked about in previous eps about never working for a corporation. As far as businesses goes, hey, I'm happy to be where I am. But the reality is everyone wants freedom. Everyone doesn't talk about the real freedom. It's like, why, if we enjoyed what we did in business day to day, why would we go, happy Friday, or, working for the weekend? Fuck that. Why? You're delaying your happiness somewhere else? No, you need to be happy now. You need to be content now with what the fuck you are doing, or at least accept it in the direction that you're going towards, right? We all have we have to pay tax on everything that we do. Everything is an opportunity cost. And as far as I'm concerned, where I am now is great. It's a good place to be. Life is good. I'm enjoying where I am and the people I work with and the job that I do, mostly. But irrespective of that, we all want freedom. I'm just brazen enough to be outward about it and to announce what I'm doing here. And that's really it, is that I'm trying to be I'm tall popping again, except I'm trying not to let people cut me down, because you need to back yourself in more than anyone else. And I have a great analogy on that I'll talk about in another rep, but I feel like I've gone way more than the format that I have set up for myself. Essentially what I said was I would make this show no more than half an hour anymore, and just do 2 to 3 segments just on certain things. The solopreneur journey, just diarizing what I'm up to, what's interesting about it. Again, concepts about the world and the universe and life that I think are interesting and worth sharing. And yeah, just little things like that. But I figured I'd owe you a conversation about where I've been up to, because you are, to a degree, invested in my life and who I am, which is lovely, which is really nice. And yeah, so it's going to be minimal. I'm focusing on quality, on talking to you as authentically as possible about life, about what I think and what I feel. I think it's going to be of immense benefit to you, because I'm dedicated to a life of self-improvement, of service, of getting the most out of life, and documenting and sharing the journey as an example to others about ways that you can expand your consciousness and the ways that you can go about your life, because there are so many things that we live in shelter of that are not known to us just through lack of knowledge and the lack of exposure to these things. But the internet and people's perspectives on lives, they're so open and available now, and you need to have examples in your life of how you can get better. Monkey see, monkey do. And we are monkeys, right? We are chimps. I mean, you can look at my face and say I'm not too far off genetically. Don't say that about Adam Goods. But yeah, there's a lot more to the nature of man that we need to exploit and leverage for our own benefit. The tongue twisters and me fucking up things and going on tangents will not disappear in season 2. That is what we call authenticity. All right, guys, that's the show for now. I'm glad to be back. It's a pain to get off first gear as in life and build the momentum to create things and talk to you again. But I'm feeling good about it. I think you would have heard I'm a lot more forthright than I was in previous episodes because there's less pretense to be concerned about. I'm here, I'm talking shit. This is life. It's not about the gloss. It's about the real shit, the prettiness, the fluff. Somebody else can deal with that. Most of you don't even watch this anyway. You listen to it. So all of the fit shit that I've been doing around making sure the cuts are right and making sure the edit is okay and color grading, most of you don't give a flying fuck about that, but that's the busy work that I have bullshitted my brain into believing that's more important than being of service to you honestly. And that's just the way of life. That's just what it is. We've all got our crosses to bear. Hopefully by showing off the cross that I've got, it'll make you all a little bit lighter. The world gets better. Fucking great. All right, folks. What's going on branding-wise? Things to plug. Yes. What can you do? Not a lot for now. So I'm cutting these up to go on TikTok and YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube, please do. I've now rebranded everything to Jamil J. Raymond. That was the only thing that I could find on the internet across all the social media platforms that fits my personal brand. So Jamil J. Raymond on TikTok and YouTube. Come check me out. I'll be building some more things as we come along. It is ground zero. It is day one of a new dawn, a new era. We will iterate and get better day by day, step by step. And this is the solid base to build upon. Mwah! I love yous all. See you again next week.